Would you?
Books.
Would you? Yeah, many books. Okay. All right. Welcome to Talkin' Shit with Tara Cheyenne. This is episode 6 with Peter Dickinson. Dr. Peter Dickinson. You should just do that from now on. Just correct everybody.
Dr. Peter.
Dr. Peter. You're a professor here at Simon Fraser University.
That is correct.
In literature.
I teach both in the English department and here at the School for Contemporary Arts.
Right.
You could ask me which I like best.
Which do you like best? What do you like best?
Let's just say it has something to do with my commute, which is 10 minutes here versus 50 minutes to Burnaby for English. No, actually.
For English, on the mountain.
On the mountain. Yeah. I get something different out of each, and they inform each other.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like the difficult child and your favorite child, and you're not going to tell them which one is the difficult.
I was the middle child.
Oh.
So that just my psychology all stems from there.
Everything makes sense now. your demeanor is like, middle child.
That's why it was so hard working with him in the studio.
No, that's why you're so accommodating.
Oh.
That's why you're so and you're like, okay, what's the temperature in here? Who's having a meltdown? Who's okay? Okay. Yeah. Wow. And how was the age difference?
Brother 2 years, actually 18 months older than me, and sister 3 years younger.
Wow. Are you close with them?
Yeah. They both live in Ontario. Okay. I don't see them. We talk often.
Yeah.
It's a kind of weird thing. Maybe it's also being the gay kid.
Right.
But I love my family. We were very close. Yeah. Everybody was fine with the coming out story, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, it's geography. It's part of that.
Right.
I feel like Vancouver's the right distance. I can see them once a year, and then
it's fine. Not long enough to get into anything.
I don't think I would ever have a relationship with my family where somebody's down the street or that we're at each other's house for dinner all the time or doing that sort of stuff. That would be stifling.
Yeah. I mean, I have family here, but there's
And Richard, my partner's brother, lives in Delta, North Delta, and they see each other about as often as I do.
Everybody's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you came to Vancouver in 92, 93?
Yeah, now let me figure this out. I graduated from U of T in 1990, then I did my European backpack tour.
In 92?
No, I think that December, so 91. So I think I actually might have come the fall of 91 to start my MA at UBC.
Okay.
I feel like yes, that's right. Fall of 91.
Yeah.
Mike Harcourt had just won the election or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. And then did you plan on staying in Vancouver? Or?
No. I didn't plan on anything really. I went to grad school because I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
And I had money. That's right. I'd applied only to UBC, and I think partly it was the distance thing.
Right.
Where can I go in the country? I didn't want to leave the country.
Yeah.
It was farthest away from, ex-lovers and various people. And it was Vancouver.
Right.
And I didn't really know anything about the city. Didn't really know anything much about the school I was going to, but they accepted me, and I had money. I deferred a year, and then came.
Right.
And then, this MA thing, now what am I going to do? Better do a PhD.
And did you do your PhD at
UBC?
At UBC you did your PhD?
Yeah, so both my MA and PhD were at SFU, or UBC rather, and it was all still literature then, but my doctoral research was, a large part of it was on Canadian theatre.
Okay.
And kind of that's more or less what I got interested in.
Yeah. And
when I was hired at SFU, after a period in the wilderness, where I had a postdoc at the University of Montreal, which I didn't really go there very much. And then I did contract work, teaching composition, which was going to kill me.
Right.
If I don't get a job soon, it's going to be hell. So in 2002, English department in drama. So I was
Okay.
hired to teach modern drama, like literature, dramatic
Okay.
literature.
Right.
And at the same time, coincidentally, there was a job in the School of Contemporary Arts, which I also applied for and did make the shortlist, but they were a little slow. And so I picked the English job before I had an interview. And then, as the years progressed, and I, started meeting people, collaborated with Rob Kitsos and Kugler and various other people, at a certain point I said, this doesn't make sense. I should try to get some teaching in contemporary arts. And that led to an official cross appointment, which is where I am now.
A cross appointment.
Which, you know what that means, Tara?
What does that mean?
Get more offices.
That's all it means. More offices. Ooh.
Yeah. We might have to edit that out because people aren't supposed to know.
People aren't supposed to know that you have more
I'm just
than...
kidding. I'm kidding.
I just have to make sure it's still working. A cross appointment. I just like that term, a cross appointment. Dr. Peter, cross appointment. Okay, but you're like, I think of you as like, it's like, you're a part of the dance community. So can you tell me about like how that happened? Like how did you get sucked in, or what happened? What happened?
Okay. So, it's really interesting. Tara and I just finished an interview. I interviewed her for our Dance Histories project. Doing this thing with Justine and Alexa and having all these wonderful dancers, choreographers come in and tell their histories, I suddenly realized that I had to kind of tell my movement history.
Yeah.
Which is part of what Justine wants to do. At a certain point, the three of us are going to interview each other.
Yeah.
And so the story goes way back, which is I remember reading a Scholastic magazine. Remember those Scholastic magazines?
Yeah, totally.
There was one on the lone Billy Elliot guy in this class of bunheads.
Yeah.
And something clicked in my head about, I'd kind of like to do that. And I went and asked my parents. I don't know what the upshot of it was, but they were very enthusiastic about the art, having me participate in the arts, but somehow it went from ballet class to classical guitar.
How did I get here?
And I am so unmusical, which would have been a problem for ballet too, but
Less so.
But I can't carry a tune. I could never learn to tune my instrument. I actually hated practicing. That went the way of the dodo.
Yeah.
But I also, there was this kind of vicarious interest in dance. Not that my parents, we never went to the Nutcracker, we never did any of that. But I had a teacher so we went from Fredericton, New York City, Quebec, Mississauga, Ontario. And in high school in Mississauga, Ontario, I had this amazing English teacher who showed basically, not to waste time, but to get us to think about those classic documentaries by Norm Maclaren, Narcissus, and Pas de Deux, and the Cynthia Scott Flamenco at 5:15. So it was like, whoa. Anyway, that goes on, and then I come to UBC to do graduate work, and I'm studying for my comprehensive exams, and I want to get outside my head to do something physical. I'm going to take a ballet class. My first ballet class at the age of 20 whatever.
Yeah.
And who walks in the first day but a professor from my department? It's like, fuck me! I don't want this! This is not...
No crossover! Cross appointment, but no crossover.
Yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed. I wish I could remember the name. It was at the, the former, not the new Riley Park Community Center, but the old one.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And she was fantastic. So I got the dance slippers and the dance belt and the tights and everything. And I could not plie to save my life, right? I mean, I just... and anyway, around the same time, I was just starting to go to see stuff.
Yeah.
And it started with, John Lane when he was at Ballet BC. It was we weren't subscribers then, but I remember the Fairy Queen, or not the Fairy Queen. Did you do the Fairy Queen? No, it was Midsummer Night's Dream. With Emily Espa.
Oh yeah.
And various other things. I mean, seeing Crystal's first piece for them. Going up the stairs of the Queenie. I remember that piece. and then seeing the stuff she was making when she started out, which I still think is amazing.
Yeah.
Double story and all that stuff.
It's great.
And then just, you know, I don't know how I discovered Edom, but, you know, it was close to home. It was like these choreographic series, like, I think maybe my first glimpse of your work was not there, because that was Highgate.
Right.
The first
thing.
Generation. But I think one of Zine's first pieces that she did with Barbara, I saw there. James Ganam's first contact piece.
Oh, yeah.
A student of mine, Alana Garricky, was also part of the company there. I mean, that's significantly later.
Yeah.
That's more recent history. But I just started going to see stuff. And then on my first sabbatical, I think it was, I decided I was going to set up a blog. Because I was just going to see performance generally, and more my research and writing was going into writing about local Vancouver performance. I was seeing such amazing things, like we were talking about all these new experimental theater companies starting out. I said, you know, this is as good as anything I'm seeing anywhere. Why should somebody needs to write about this? And you know, the people who were writing about it were snarky, Mr. You know.
Well, there's that. Absolutely, the Vancouver writer.
And you know, as much as I love her, you know, somebody other than Janet Smith should be documenting this. So it didn't start out to be this comprehensive thing, but it kind of became this compulsion to write about what I was seeing, and I didn't think I knew how to write about dance. How do I describe that crazy thing they're doing? I didn't feel I had the vocabulary. Yeah. But then people started responding, and mostly what was validating to me was that it was dancers who were responding to me, like who were saying, wow. And I think what I could offer was not the high academic theory, but more kind of contextualizing the work a little bit. You know, not offering, because it's something I never wanted to do. I was adamant that I'm not reviewing work. Yeah. I'm writing about it, responding to it, so I didn't feel I had to offer like an aesthetic judgment. This was good or bad or whatever. You know?
Which isn't that useful at the end of the day either. And I think what's so great about what you do too is that, well, it's like it's a discourse, you know, about the art that is not about dance. That is not. I find so much has been really like just descriptive or a little bit dismissive, or like, you know, there's a frivolity of the form as opposed to I don't know, real like contemplation or, you know, critical dialogue about the form. That's you know, I think it's really important. Yeah. And it also makes us all honor what we do in a different way and learn to talk about it in a different way.
Yeah. And I mean, then the learning part was really key for me, because I was really consciously going into the writing about what I was seeing as, how is this working? Like just trying to figure it out. Right. Not necessarily trying to second guess the choreographic process or anything like that, but you know, this leads to this, and how it's kind of working on me, like how am I responding to the work. And as you say, it was, I mean, this is generally the case with the performing arts anyway, as opposed to say, let's say visual art or something like that. Yeah. The critical discourse just tends to be a little bit less robust, but here especially. And so, you know, trying to just make that little contribution, as it were. Yeah. And as a result, people started just like, why don't you do a talk back? Or maybe you can do this. And so, like, I feel like I'm, you know, now when I turn up to do something at the dance center, I feel like people are going, him again? but it also, I mean, I just, you know, I've made such, and you know, what has been so rewarding to me is to deconstruct the prejudice that dancers are just moving bodies and not thinkers. Oh God, no kidding. Like every single dancer in this community that I've gotten to know and talked with is so much smarter than the average artist, frankly. I totally agree. Not
But every time I work with, like, I love actors, I love them. But when I return to working with dancers, I'm like, fuck, you guys are smart. And there's the rigor, and what they have to accomplish without any help or facility or anything. It's kind of mind-boggling, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because it's these conversations with dance people and being like, shit, you're smart, and it's so interesting. And then what your mind is doing and how that translates to what you're doing on stage that's quite fascinating, because it's kind of supernatural in a way. I don't know.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, so, and then it's kind of just evolved from there. So this latest phase in my dance relationship, career, whatever you call it, is I'm actually doing a little bit of movement.
I think you're doing a lot of movement.
All her fault. It's true, I can date it to that summer.
Really?
Yeah, it's after that I started.
That you started working with.
I did the Grand Continental and a bunch of other community things.
Yeah.
But I did Wreck Beach Budo after that.
Now, did you just do it for the second time?
I just did.
And how was that?
It was pretty intense. It was the first time that, and Barbara and Jay were upfront about this, that it was all new choreography.
Okay.
Because sometimes they kind of bring pieces back.
For sure.
And as a result of it, so I think the way it worked was Barbara said at a certain point, Jay announced to her at the dinner table, well, I've created 30 minutes. And apparently this is the way they work. They kind of just goad and challenge and provoke each other. And she said, well, I better get busy. And so in the interim, between last year's Wreck Beach Budo and this year, I'd started taking class with Barbara.
Right.
Which is like insane.
See, that's amazing. That's amazing, because I'm like, oh, it's gonna hurt me too much. But you will go.
And I'm there. And what I kind of like about her class, like and hate, is kind of all mixed up. Is she'll just throw in all the technique stuff and expect you to follow along. It's sort of like, what? Wait. But it's amazing after I'm irregular because I can't make it every week, but it kind of sits in there and it's there now. I can't say that I have any deeper plie. Barbara's saying is, Peter, what's wrong with your calves? They're too tight. Did you play basketball when you were a kid?
Peter, what's wrong with your calves?
And I swear, that plank, Barbara, torture.
How long does she make you do it?
I don't know. She goes off and does the couple of texts.
Gets the coffee.
But yeah, so she said to me, so when Jay said, I've got 30 minutes, she said, well, I better make some stuff. And so I noticed she started creating in the classes the work. And it was really quite physical. There was a lot of rolling. Yeah. So, we're in Harbor Dance. Yeah. Parquet floor.
No, not easy, man.
And Jay wants us to pick up speed as we're rolling. I had bruises. Bruises like you wouldn't believe on my hips.
I bet. Well, yeah, and you don't have a lot of subcutaneous fat on you, my darling.
But it was great. It was wonderful. I have a feeling I have one more in me, maybe.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. It was interesting. They were kind of, because they're moving into a new space and they don't know what's going to happen next year.
Things are in flux.
Yeah.
But so what's your next project? What's your next performing project now?
Well, I guess this dance history thing, whatever, just
so now, oh my god, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah. But coincidentally, I was making work, writing, as I was saying, these plays, and in terms of your practice, it was really interesting to me. I would say words are my thing. Yeah. But I have a particular style, and the academic thing seeps into the theatrical writing, which I'm not interested in being naturalist or anything like that. Yeah. I kind of like a more literary style, and so the lecture performance mode suited me. But I always knew intuitively that it needed to have movement. It was just from the beginning. And what was interesting to me is I felt comfortable making suggestions in the stage directions.
That's
Like I don't know the choreography, but this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I've continued in my scripts to write that. Warning.
I love it. No, that's fantastic because there's not a lot of writers do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love it when I work with like a director who's like, we just kind of go back and forth, but then have the writer also contributing to that. I think would be amazing.
Physical theater or dance theater are my favorite form.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So your play that's going up at the Gateway is titled
Long Division.
Long Division.
November 17th to
November
26th.
17th to 26th at the Gateway. Pie Theater's producing it. Richard Wolff is directing it. Are you going to be involved in the...
I want to be, because the first piece, I was so spoiled.
Yeah, right.
You're going to hate this when I tell you this. We worked on it for a year. Because we had space, and we were doing it internally.
That's what we all need to be doing.
We had performers for a year.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I have to maximize. We actually have more than the 2.5 week standard.
Oh, good.
We've got about almost 4 when you combine it together, because I think we're going to do a workshop in September.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can't miss this, and Richard's open. I mean, it's funny, when I'm in or at least the first time, I was such a newbie. I didn't feel like I knew how to give notes.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of ceded that, unless I felt like a line wasn't working, or this was really not what I was intending. But and I don't presume to be any more involved this time. But I'm not gonna say to Leslie Telford, "Oh, Leslie, do you know?"
You know what I'm just thinking? I'm wondering about the artist. Do you think you could fix that for me? Choreographers love that.
Yeah.
But I mean.
But I want to see it. I want to see it evolve.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so this will be number 2 in your...
And number
potentially
3...
Potentially a third.
Might be a collaboration between nous deux. Because there's some French in it.
And they speak so good. The French, I make up whatever they want. And this is du sweat. Did you ever see that Steve Martin where he speaks French and all he says is, and this is du sweat?
Oh, but now you're just reminding me. I feel like Pepe Le Pew needs to get in there somehow.
Oh, fucking Pepe Le Pew. That was some genius. That was some genius stuff that when I've gone back and watched some of those cartoons, like kind of pre-watch them before watching them with my child, they're so funny. Some of them are so funny and some of them are so inappropriate for little kids.
Yeah.
Oh. But it's interesting, eh?
But I feel like you could do amazing things choreographically, but some of them.
Well, it's so loaded. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Anyway.
Okay, so Peter Dickinson, anything else? You've got this play, Shaping Young Minds up here.
Actually, that's something interesting. That's so the cross appointment in the classes I've been teaching previously, I've been doing the critical writing in the arts piece, and it's really important to me to get the dancers who take that, especially to get their writing chops up to snuff, to be able to communicate what they're doing.
It's super important for dancers.
Yeah.
It's super important.
And in that class, it's good for them too, because it's one of the few classes here. I mean, I feel like the interdisciplinary thing that is the mandate of SFU has kind of happened by default.
Yeah.
But now there are a few more courses where it's more integrated.
Right.
Like there's a collaboration
course.
Right,
yeah.
And
taught a few of those.
All those things. And this writing course, the dancers, less so, the theater people tend to take other courses, but the dancers, the music people and the visual art people, a few film people, they're encountering each other and they're having to write for each other and explain their process, and so that has been really important. But this past year is the first time I got to teach dance aesthetics. And I know you got out of these courses when you were
I had to do that one.
But I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, you'd be amazing. I'd like to take it again with you.
But it was like just this opportunity to show them all of this work. Yeah. And they come in, I don't know what your experience was, but you came from years of ballet.
Yeah.
like a lot of these people are from the little suburban studio where they do their lyric dance.
And they do all those competitions and stuff with their inappropriate costumes.
Yeah. And some of them don't know who George Balanchine is, right? Which is kind of... But it's great because then I get to deconstruct George Balanchine and say, he has a lot to explain for me.
You get to be the gatekeeper. I'm going to show you what I want you to know.
Yeah. But they kind of are blown away when... Like, so just to bring the idea of gender into dance and sort of say, you know, as Barbara Bourget would say, 85% women in dance, 15% men, but, you know...
Where's the power?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to sort of get that discourse going and to be able to point to contemporary dance in this city and say, look at all these amazing women who are making work. Because it was 26 women and 1 man in my class. Wow. That was the first year cohort last year.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Good work.
And he'll get a job.
I know.
And how many of them will?
That's fun. I know, and you're looking and going to situations where like all these women are so amazing, and this guy's okay. He's okay. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
But you change the world. You're changing the world.
I'm hoping a little bit.
For sure.
I'm not really, but...
Can we just tell ourselves that we're doing something?
No, but you know, that's what's amazing about being a teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much of this institution that drives me insane. I mean, you know, this is a place that has meetings about having meetings. Yeah. You know? And you just want to actually bring the creative process into the actual academic bureaucracy. Sort of like, this would not work. We could not spend 7 months talking about how to start.
Because we got a show to do.
And we're, you know, the clock is ticking, we're paying money.
Yeah.
But for all of that, and for all I complain about students, I put so much effort into this essay.
But I spent at least half an hour on it. What?
It is, you know, it's invigorating to be around people who want to make work and be excited.
Totally.
And the MFAs here are insanely talented.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's some really interesting people coming out of this place.
Yeah, and I feel like you can see that in the landscape.
For sure.
Looking at the theater and the dance companies, or you know, the independent dance artists who have stayed and are making work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Rich. From SFU.
Rich. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Peter.
My pleasure.
It's so nice to talk to you.
Likewise.
Long Division, November 17th, Gateway, and all your other brilliance, and we'll see you on stage, I'm sure. Or naked on the beach.
One or the other.
Okay.